I'm Melisa Nielsen with Waldorf Essentials. I want to focus just quickly and lightly on how you approach learning in a co-op. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it, or I should say a few different ways, because a couple would only imply that there's two. There's a few different ways you can go about it. Often co-ops, when they first start meeting together, it's just a play date. They get together, they go to a park, or they're at somebody's house. They might be having a circle, and their kids are probably generally pretty small. They're, generally 6 and under, 7 and under. And that's often how people start. And that's a great place to start, But as your kids start to grow, you're going to want to add more to that co-op and more to your responsibilities and who's doing what. And again, for that, I would definitely recommend the training that we just did. But I think in general, what I would do is I would say you should probably decide within your co-op what you're doing and how you want to add functionality and how you want to add structure to your co-op. So when we started the one here in San Diego, and this was the third or fourth co-op that we started, I can't remember. We started with park days and with the circle element, and then we started dividing up into lessons. And right now we have about 40 kids that range in age from infancy up to 14. And so we have a wide range that we are meeting. And this would be, listen up if you guys have older kids and you're like, how in the heck do I reach the older kids? Because I know the older kids get bored easily. And to her credit, Eleanor came until she was 16, and after that she was like, Mom, and I said, oh, it's okay, it's all good, She graduated out of co-op at a good time for her, at a good time for our co-op. And at the time, the next youngest was like 13 or 12, and so that was hard for her. So if you've got a co-op situation where you've only got one teenager or even two teenagers, I say you've got to put some energy into attracting more older kids. So in our balance right now, we actually have 12 kids that are 9 and up in our co-op, 11 that are 7 and 8 year olds, 10 that are kindergartners, 5 and 6, and then we have about 8 or 10 of the 0 to 4s. So we have a pretty good spread, and when we add people to our co-op, we are very careful about who we add and where we add them. Like if we have too many of one, not enough another, what are we really trying to grow? Because we really look at the dates of birth of all those kids and when they're going to be moving up into the next class, how that's going to look for that class, how, if we have to split a class, do we have enough moms to be able to do that? So really being able to pay attention to sort of the dynamics that are in your co-op, I think, is super important. What I would say then from there is, when it comes to learning in a co-op, we split up into classes, and in each parent, we have a parent rotation, and they take turns teaching each of the classes. And I think it's fantastic. The moms in our co-op really love it. The kids really love it. The kids get excited. They have certain teachers that they love to see over and over again. They get excited and nervous when they have a new mom teacher, but they get excited because they know what the expectations of my co-leader and I are, so they know that they're pretty high. And they know that just by attending that they're going to have fun. So we have not, since we have split up into classes and really focused on each age group, we've not had any trouble with somebody saying, I don't want to be here, this is boring. Because honestly, you have to meet those kids where they are. You can't give the 12-year-olds, the 11 and 12-year-olds, you can't give them a little circle that you would give the 5 and 6-year-olds. You just can't. It will not meet them, and it shouldn't meet them. It's really, if you look at Steiner's development, it shouldn't meet them at that point. And many children, you might be able to say, well, just come and help with the others. That only goes so far when they're ready to be with their peers. So we really work on peer relationships. We really work on keeping that alive for those bigger kids so that they want to be there and so that they have a good time being there. And, oh, excuse me. That can definitely be a challenge And the teacher that has to take, or that decides to take on that group, has to be ready to, really meet them. And they have definitely, they have movement needs. They're different movement needs than the younger ones. So, I would say that if you're going to split up and do lessons, pay close attention to your group. Pay close attention to what they need. And that would really go for any age group that you might be teaching. In our co-op specifically, we do main lesson, but it's not, everybody's not on the same track. So because we have so many different ages, we don't go, okay, well, we have to do the Waldorf grade 4 for this month. No, we break up into topics. My co-leader and I, we invite people to share with us what topics they'd like to see for the new year when we have our June meeting. And then she and I sit down and we actually lay them out and then bring them to our group. So with that, we usually do 2 lesson days a month. There ends up being 1 festival most months, and then we have a field trip. And we usually have somebody that takes those lessons for 2 months at a time. So there will be a lesson that generally spans over 2 months. So this month, or this year, we're actually doing an overarching theme for January, February, March on survival skills and navigation, because we are going camping as a co-op at the end of March. And with that, we wanted the kids to be sort of really ready. They know how to, especially the bigger kids, knowing how to build a fire, the younger kids knowing what to collect for a fire. So understanding what kindling is and how to collect it. We're doing navigation. All the kids got compasses. I'm just going to tell you, co-op leaders, you can get compasses on Amazon for way cheap. I think we got 48 compasses for $25 or something crazy like that. Amazon is definitely a go-to for the things that we need for our co-op. So we're doing navigation. We're doing navigation by the night sky. So we're paying attention to what's going on in the night sky. And it is beautiful because all of those topics can really hit each child individually in the age that they are, and as far as developmentally. And it doesn't need to go outside those realms. It doesn't mean that the 5-year-olds are understanding what the 12 and 13-year-olds are, and it doesn't mean that that they're sort of being brought into things before they're ready. So we are really very conscious in our co-op about making sure that things are age appropriate for them. And my co-leader and I require that the teachers let us know 2 weeks in advance what it is that they're teaching, so we can actually go over those and sort of make sure that we feel like things are properly placed, and also so that our teachers can say, hey, I need this, or hey, I need that, and we can grab those things for them. So that would be sort of how we tackle learning in a co-op. When we lived in Utah and I had the co-op there, it was much more low-key. We ended up splitting, but not really. We would, like if we had a painting day, we would just sort of split the room a bit, and there would be somebody with the younger ones, somebody with the older ones. And that worked out well, but at the time, our oldest was Eleanor, and there were a couple of other kids that were her age, and she was probably, 12? 10, 11, 12. So she was younger at that point. And so it worked out. It worked out to be able to split it that way. So really and truly, if you're running a co-op, you really just have to think about your audience. Think about who you're serving. And it is about who you're serving. It is not about getting together with other moms. It's about serving the children. The other moms is a bonus. It's great if you're in there with your bestie. My co-leader and I, while we're great friends now, we were not friends before we started this co-op. We kind of had gotten to know each other, and we knew we wanted to do something together, or do something in San Diego. So we got to know each other. And for the first 6 months, we didn't have anybody but the 2 of us. And granted, we had, almost 10 kids, 9 kids between us. It still was not, it was not a giant group. It was just the 2 of us. And so with that, we grew from there, and our ideas grew from there. So we gathered together and we just did festivals, so she and I, and talked about what we wanted. And those discussions are hugely important as you're getting ready to start this. Starting a co-op is not something to be done on a whim. It's something you should really think about, because we are working with other people's children, and there are kids that will have big feelings if it doesn't work out. So really being able to decide, and moms that will have big feelings for sure, but really being able to decide what it is that you want and go from there. And that sort of what you're portraying, how you're showing up is super important.